Hello, my loves. This is Johanna Burkhardt. I am a multidimensional channel, teacher, healer, and author. And I am obsessed with all things metaphysical, esoteric, galactic, and of course, the healing journey. And I'm here to share my stories, my wisdom, and my teachings about being human in the illusion that we call reality. Welcome to Cosmic Blonde.
Hello, my loves. Well, I have spent the last 4 hours trying to record a podcast for this week. This is where we are. This is where we are today. Um, and in that was also creating content for Insight Timer. Yes, I am a teacher, a meditation teacher on Insight Timer. I'm trying to put up a new course on Insight Timer. I have one of my other courses is on there. It's an audio course. They're mini courses. Has done phenomenally well, and it has always brought me beautiful clients. And so I felt called to put up a new one. But of course, I recorded module one, and that took God, how no know how many hours to record. And then I stopped and I was like, you know what? This isn't flowing. Let me record a podcast. And then, of course, that wasn't flowing. And so here we are. We're just going to have a conversation. That's what we're going to do today. We're just going to have a conversation because things are so much differently now. And I can't keep forcing things and I can't keep trying to make things work in the parameters of which I believe is best for me. And it doesn't work that way in New Earth frequencies. You guys know I've talked about for months on the podcast how in December we had a tsunami of light come in that ushered and shifted, split the timelines, and ushered us into New Earth frequencies. Not everybody, but if you're listening to this, there's a good chance you're a part of that. And now we're starting to anchor those frequencies. And so things are starting to stabilize a little bit, or the beginning stages of it being stabilized anyway. But old Earth had a patriarchal structure. It was based upon bleeding things dry, extracting everything out of it till there was nothing left, including ourselves. It was about domination and control and fear and suppression and scarcity. And the new earth is matriarchal. And that doesn't mean that women control men. It's like the cycle of life is returning, right? We're breathing life into things. We're returning to cycles and seasons and allowing things to be cyclical, for our intuition to lead, for us to flow. And where it's not that masculine isn't important, but the divine masculine becomes the structure, the container for everything to flow in. And so this week I had a very set structure. I had a very structured plan in my head anyway of how things were going to go. I have been mentally in such a great place. I have all these creative ideas just taking root and blooming in my head, and I'm like chomping at the bit to want to bring them to life, to want to like create, but my energy just isn't all the way there yet. And it probably would be if I would do what I know to do, which is rest. And I'm just at this point where I'm so tired of being tired. I'm so tired of resting. And it's funny because as I'm saying that, I'm like, I went through this before. I know I went through this before, but it was in a different way. And it's when I was healing my adrenal fatigue, which takes years. It takes 4 years plus to heal adrenal fatigue. So please don't bulldoze through anything. Don't push. And it's so ironic that we're talking about this because a couple of days ago, actually over the weekend, I said to my sister-in-law, I said, what do you do when you're too tired to support yourself? When you're too tired to create content or to do what you need to do to take care of yourself? She's like, you just push through. I'm like just bulldoze? She's like, yeah. I'm like, that's how I got adrenal fatigue. Like, I can't do that. And even that, I'm like, I don't even have, like, there's no gas in my tank. That day when I was talking to her, I'm like, there is zero gas in my tank. Oh, and it's a real fear that I've had lately because of this exhaustion returning. It's really brought back a lot of the fears when I had adrenal fatigue. Because when I had adrenal fatigue, that was the culmination of, 10 years of shit, of pushing through, forcing, doing things that I shouldn't be doing, controlling, living in fight or flight, And then when it all came to a head and I knew that I needed to rest, I wasn't able to. I didn't have a partner who was willing to financially contribute to supporting me so that I wouldn't need to work as much. And I didn't have the emotional support that I needed. And I didn't feel safe in my body to even let my nervous system relax. So healing was not going to happen in that environment. But then I did heal. And I'm feeling those energies again, even though I'm being assured that it is because of me moving into the new earth frequencies and needing to be emptied out of all the things that are not meant for me to carry. And I've talked about this before. And so in December, when that shift happened, that month was such a blur to me anyway. And it was not a bad month, but there was my son was here for a week. The holidays were here, so everything was a little bit slower anyway. Then January came, and because I had surrendered so deeply in December, that January was a very good month for me. I was very supported in January, which was awesome. And I didn't have a heavy workload. But what did do was I continued to force myself to go out to date, to be gone all weekend. And I was dating one person in particular during that time. And what we were doing on the weekends and the lifestyle that he was living was not serving me. And I was not the person that I wanted to be. And I talked about this too, and how I left that relationship or ended it. Nevertheless, nothing slowed me down, right? I was still going out, I was still dating, I was still doing those things, and not really taking the weekends to just lay around and do nothing. And there's reason for that because for me, isolation is the worst thing. I am a very social being, and humans are meant to be connected. We're meant to connect to other human beings. This is how we were designed. But we're learning to be human. We are. We're learning to be human. Nobody knows how to be human, and we're not human beings. We are spirit having a human experience while we're teaching the human body to ascend. We're helping the human body to ascend because human beings or humans, they will become a hybrid race in the multiverse. You would think, oh, aren't we a race right now? Not really. We're not. We're going through an evolutionary journey to create another race that will be able to morph and change. We will become shapeshifters. And so eventually, Earth will reside in a six dimensional frequency, and the human vessel will have evolved to be a hybrid species. And that's one that is something that can shapeshift and will be its own race, just like the Pleiadians or the Arcturians. But that's why I'm always talking about how the human vessel is what's ascending. It's moving from a carbon state, which can't change form, into a crystalline state, which can change form. And it can adapt and align itself very quickly. So there's that, right? So we're all learning how to become human. And as we shifted into these new frequencies, we're all learning how to navigate them. And I'm no different than that. And while in April we are beginning to anchor these frequencies, stabilize them, is what that means. I'm starting to see, like, oh my gosh, where I can be different and that I need to be different in certain things, aka not forcing an agenda or what I wanted to talk about or what I want to create when it doesn't fit, when it doesn't flow. And so I just stopped and said, we're just going to have a conversation and see what happens and see what comes through. You know, sometimes I just be doing too much though. And like I said, I was going out all the time, and it's not like I was going out partying. I was just going out. I was busy. I was constantly moving and flowing. I wasn't giving myself enough time to be rested and rooted. And what is rushed rarely roots. And because now It's April. I'm like, I have been resting for 4 months. Like, it's time. I have all these ideas. My mindset has shifted. I am feeling great mentally, but physically, I cannot fuel the creation of all of these ideas. And it's driving me crazy. It is forcing me to surrender and surrender and surrender some more. And I got a hard lesson in that when the last 2 weeks of March, which I told you guys, the guides told us it was going to be super intense. You think I would have lightened up. I didn't. I didn't. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, the week, in fact, of the solar eclipse, the last week of March, I had a date with this guy who we'll call Larry. And those of you who know why I'm calling him that, you're going to laugh, and that's okay. We're going to call him Larry. He was a great, met him, talked, decided to go out to dinner on a Thursday night, had a great dinner, kind of flagged a couple of things that were off with him that I thought, let's see what, if this pans out to be anything. Um, I was already tired, but I was excited about this date. So that gave me a burst of energy. And the day before, I had done massive energy work. So I had met this woman who's in Australia, and I have had 2 sessions with her, once a week for 2 weeks, the past couple of weeks. Anyway, she's going to be on the podcast coming up where I'm going to be talking about her modalities that she facilitates. They're not hers, but she's certified in them. And that she took me through. So I had done massive energy work the day before. And so I was kind of feeling pretty good. And so went on the date, whatever date was great. Next day, wake up, I fucking feel like I was hit by a Mack truck. I had another date with a different guy planned that Friday night. When I tell you it was so incredibly painful, but because I had already committed to going, I was like, I'm going to go. By the way, it is okay and safe to break commitments. If you say you're going to be somewhere, but all of a sudden you are too tired and your body needs rest, don't go just because you said you were going to go. Choose yourself. I didn't choose myself that day. I just didn't. And I'm going to be honest about it. Choose yourself and choose to stay home, choose to rest, choose to prioritize you. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that, hey, things shift and change, and we need to be able to roll with it. I didn't do that. I pushed myself to go. The date was not great either, by the way. This gentleman was super nice, but he was very monotoned, could barely hear him, and I have exceptional hearing. We just didn't click. So I was kind of peeved at myself a little bit for going out on this when I could have been sleeping in my bed. I wake up the next morning, it's Saturday, it's the day of the solar eclipse. I know better than to go out on supercharged days, but here's the thing. Shenandoah was playing at a music festival 20 minutes from my house. I love Shenandoah. It was $35. I don't know when I'd ever get that chance again. And so I was like, I'm taking it. It took everything in me to get ready. And I finally did. It was hot. It was humid. I had sweat rolling down my back. My hair that was curled didn't even last. It fell out within 5 minutes. But I had a blanket and I had a backpack. I got some waters and I found a spot real close to the stage, laid out the blanket, literally laid on the cool ground, just stared up at the trees and listened to all the other bands play, waiting for Shenandoah to come on. That's how exhausted I was. I didn't want to walk around. I didn't want to socialize. I didn't even go with anybody. There was people there I knew that, and I knew they were there, but I didn't even try to find them. I just wanted to lay there and be alone and listen to music because music gives me life. Music gives me energy. And so I did that. And when Shenandoah came on, I got up, I danced, I had a good time, and everything's fine. And when it was over, I went to leave. I should have gone home. So I should have done. And I did run by my house, but the gentleman that I met on Thursday night, who I really happened to like, and I had a great date with and thought, okay, let's go out again, had called me and invited me down to his place in downtown Houston. I don't live in Houston. I live northwest of Houston. Downtown Houston is a good hour in no traffic. It was 9 o'clock at night when I was headed his way. So I run home, I throw some shit in a bag, Because the next day we're going to swim, we're going to go do stuff, whatever. He's going to show me around, right? I ask him several times, "You're going to stay awake? It's going to take me an hour to get there." Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. Sends me his address. I send him my ETA so he can track where I am. Tons of traffic. Takes me about an hour and 20 minutes to get there. I pull in. It's one of those hoity-toity, expensive, high-end, high-rise apartment buildings in downtown Houston. And you would have thought I was in Broadway in Nashville with the carriages and the drinking and the partying. I was like, goodness gracious. Anyway, so I pull in and I'm like, oh shoot, he didn't tell me like where to park or where to go. And so I just pull in to the first parking spot I find and text him, no answer. So I start calling him, immediately goes to voicemail. And then I see that now the texts aren't even going through. So I know immediately that his phone is dead, which means he fell asleep without his phone on the charger and it's dead. So I drove an hour and 20 minutes when I was utterly exhausted, had a headache, doing all the things just to go hang out with this guy because I thought that's what I wanted. And I did want that. I don't want to like misconstrue things. I did want to go see him. I did want to go spend time with him. I was just so exhausted that my body needed me to stay home and be alone and sleep. And I wasn't listening. So now I'm pissed. I made a reel about this. I am pissed. And I was like, you know what? Hmm, okay. You've shown me who you are. Not happy. And I'm thinking, I just got to go home. I'm just going to go home. It's okay. I'm thinking this is better. I'm going to go home and go to sleep. And I'll hear him out tomorrow and we'll see what happens. So I leave. I have to cross 6 lanes of the I-10 in half of a football field length to get to the I-45, which probably means nothing to all of you guys, but I have to kind of paint the picture here. I do that almost getting in an accident just in doing that. Get on the 45, coming around the curve, going about 65 miles an hour. Traffic comes to a dead stop. Dead stop. And thank God my sister-in-law didn't answer the phone because at this point I need someone to talk to because I'm so furious about what had happened. And I was like, you can't believe what just happened to me. I needed to tell somebody. She wasn't answering her phone. Thank God she wasn't because traffic was a complete standstill and I did not have enough time to stop. I hit my brakes with both feet. And I still don't know how it's possible that I didn't hit the car in front of me or how the car behind me, who was going just as fast as I was, did not hit me. I didn't, even though I hit my brakes extremely hard, I did not have enough time to not hit them. But somehow it's like my car stopped and kind of turned just enough. And I literally had probably a half an inch between me and the car in front of me. And the car behind me, same thing. And everybody just stayed there for like 2 minutes. And I was like, holy shit. And just breathing, 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 breathing. I'm rubbing my legs. I'm like, we're okay. We're okay. We're okay. Like divine intervention. God was here. The universe is supporting us, protecting us. Traffic starts moving again. And once it gets more clear and out of the congestion, I relax a little bit and I'm just breathing this whole time. And I'm like, you know what? Everything is happening to benefit me. Everything is happening to benefit me, to my benefit. Everything that's happening is to my benefit. I just kept hearing that from the guides over and over in my head. And this is something they've said to me for years. Like everything's happening for you, right? But everything is happening for my benefit. My benefit, my benefit. I'm like, what? Okay. So there's no point in being upset about what's happening because it's happening for my benefit. Even though I don't understand why and I can't see it yet. What if I just trusted this was happening for my benefit? Okay. So I drive the hour back home, get home, take off my makeup, crawl into bed. Actually, I didn't crawl into bed. I crawled into my sister-in-law's arms like I was a 5-year-old little girl, and she held me, head laying on her boobs and all, and cuddled me for 30 minutes. Let me not forget this part to help me regulate my nervous system because I was so fried. And I wasn't just fried because of this idiot and him, falling asleep on me, but because the whole past week I had been pushing through, pushing, 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 when my body was like, rest, allow, sleep. And I was like, I got things to do. I got to make money. I got to pay my bills. I'm no different than anybody else. And so I was pushing and pushing and pushing, and it literally fried my nervous system. And I was having a hard time. In fact, when I came home to pack a bag, I was shaking. That should have been my first sign that I didn't need to go anywhere. And I was shaking because I had felt the frequencies moving through me the past couple of days in preparation of the eclipse and with just the cosmic waves that were moving through. Plus, I was a heightened sensitivity on that day. Anytime there's these huge alignments, I'm ultra sensitive. And I went to a concert where there's thousands of people. And then I decided to do this. My body was depleted. The universe and the universal currents that move through us utilize our water and our minerals as conductors and can easily and very quickly dehydrate you. Not to mention it was hot and humid on top of that. I couldn't keep myself regulated. So when I came back from that experience of the guy unintentionally ghosting me, right? Falling asleep on me, and then me almost getting in a massive car accident where my car would have been demolished. I would have been very injured at the very least. Surviving that, I just was fried. And so I crawled into her arms and she literally held me for half an hour. And then I was calm enough. I went upstairs and I went to bed. The next morning, I wake up to a text message from Larry that says, "Oops, I guess I should put my phone on the charger at night, but I don't." That's it. That's all he said. No, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry that I fell asleep and didn't plug my phone in so I could hear it ring. Are you okay? Did you make it home okay? What can I do to make it up? Anything, any version of that. Nothing. No ownership. So I responded with something like I figured, something ridiculous, and waited a couple hours and sat with it. And I said, you know what? He is showing me who he is. He's showing me who he is, and I need to believe him. I don't need to create a story of, oh, it was a one-time thing, or oh, it can happen to anybody. It's true. It could have been a one-time thing. It could have happened to anybody. But the way that he messaged me the next day and what he said proved to me that he didn't know how to take accountability or ownership or even want to change and be different. So I'm going to believe that. When somebody shows you who they are and tells you who they are, believe them. So I ended it. He never even responded back after that anyway. And then I spent all day Sunday in bed, and then all day Monday in bed. And then I had my next energy session, and I spent that Thursday and that Friday and all the weekend in bed. I didn't go out on any dates. I didn't do anything. I didn't. And I'm so proud of myself for honoring that, honoring my cycles, because that's what I needed. The downside is I feel freaking amazing. My mental space is so good. I'm not really apathetic anymore. I have apathetic moments, but the full apathy is gone. And my mind is a beautiful garden of creations that are blooming that I just want to go guns a-blazing into and just start creating, right? I just want to just become this creatrix and just start pumping out all this stuff, but my body's like, we're not there yet. we're not there yet. So here I am. Yesterday, I didn't get done what I wanted to get done because I had a good problem. I had too many clients and I had people booking the same day. So I spent all day doing sessions and I didn't get a chance to record my podcast. And today my plan was to create the new mini course on Insight Timer, which again didn't happen. So this morning I woke up late, and that's okay. There are days where my gym days, I'm rotating right now between Planet Fitness and Hotworks. Hotworks I have to be up early for. Planet Fitness, I don't. I can just show up. So on those days I don't wake up to an alarm. So I was a little behind where I like to be. I had a good workout. I felt good. I had a plan. I had some of the channeled content coming through. I'd already kind of been taking some notes of things I wanted to make sure to include. And then on the way home, I started to feel depleted again. And I was like, oh, this isn't good. And I get home and I put my makeup on and I get ready and I sit down to record. And here we are, 4.5 hours later, and I'm just having a conversation with you. This might not be the best podcast, but it's what's real. It's what's showing up for me today. And it's what I have to share with you. Rest is sacred and it needs to be honored. New Earth is not about forcing, it is not about control, it is about flowing. And I am going through an identity shift as I anchor these frequencies, really kind of going through the recalibration experience again, but in a different way, because I have to learn how to be in these frequencies, which is a very feminine type of energy. This is the rise of the divine feminine. It is the rise of matriarchy, of cycles and seasons and honoring our intuition and flowing and not versus controlling. It's a very beautiful energy. And nothing needs to be rushed. Everything will happen in its own timing. And if it doesn't happen in my timing, that's okay. Because I know it will happen and it will be beautiful. Again, what is rushed rarely roots. And what I create, I want to be rooted in somebody. I want that content, those ideas to be rooted in them. I don't want it to be just something I rush through to check off a box and say that I did and completed or accomplished. Because there is no competition here, not in New Earth. There's no competition. It's just endless support. It's just honoring our authenticity, honoring who we are, honoring who we're being. And so this is me honoring that. This is me stabilizing myself and saying, you know what, Johanna, we don't have to create some life-changing, amazing podcast today. We can just have a conversation with our audience. We can just let them know where we are. We can honor our cycles and try again tomorrow if we're feeling up to it. And we can be the change and be the example by having this conversation today. And that feels good to do. It really does. I've also been noticing since I've been in the New Earth frequencies how I'm able to stabilize my thoughts, my destructive thoughts better. I'm able to witness them and change my behavior to match what I want to feel instead of having an emotional reaction to what is happening. I've noticed that I take less things personally. I notice that I am way more in tune spiritually. I'm definitely way more sensitive. My system is more sensitive to I put in it. And I've had to be much more mindful of that. Even the other day, I had gone to the doctor. I wanted them to run some blood tests just to be safe. I had them run my cortisol, my iron, just a couple of things. And everything came back perfect. But I was sitting in the doctor's office, and the doctor's office had screwed up. They thought I was coming in for blood work, not to get the order for blood work. So I had to wait for an appointment. And I was sitting there and I was multitasking and putting up content on TikTok and Instagram. And I had this feeling wash over me, and I had this instant knowing that what I was feeling was this woman in North Carolina that me, my ex-husband, and my daughter have all taken turns kind of helping take care of, driving her to doctor's appointments. Even when I was a nomad, when I would come back there was a couple of times that I drove her a couple hours to Greenville to have um, stuff done. She had cancer, and her own family didn't live nearby, so she didn't really have anybody. Anyway, I knew it was her. And I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder if she died, because that's what it felt like. It felt like I was connecting to her as she was crossing, or as she had already crossed over. And as we know, time doesn't exist. And so I could have been tuning into a future moment, getting a premonition, right? Precognition. Anyway, I immediately reach out to my ex-husband. I'm like, hey, did so and so die? He's like, no, not that I know of. She moved to Maryland to be with her daughter because she couldn't, like, she needed someone to take care of her every day. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, why? And I was like, well, I told him what happened. I had this feeling, and I felt like she was already gone. And I've had these feelings multiple times. People sometimes call me the death doula because or the birth doula in general, right? I'm good at predicting when people are going to have a baby before they've told anybody, or if they're pregnant. And most of the time, they didn't tell anybody. Even before I am who I, even before I was who I am today, I would have dreams that somebody was pregnant. And then I'd wake up and I would text them, are you pregnant? And they'd be like, how did you know that? I just found out yesterday and I haven't told a soul. I've always been that person. Well, I have become that with death as well, knowing when death is either imminent or has happened before people know it. Anywho, so I just let it go. I told him, what I'd felt, and let it go. And I said, well, maybe I got it wrong, or maybe it's a premonition and for what's to come. And so 10 minutes later, I get a text from him. You suck. Your premonitions suck. And I'm like, uh-oh. I said, what's the matter? He's like, I talked to her daughter and she's on her deathbed. Okay. He says the daughter thinks she has months. She doesn't. She has weeks, maybe. And so anyway, I sat and spent time with him on the phone, texting him back and forth, because now he was grieving and in this emotional state. And I was like, wow, like that was out of nowhere, out of the blue. It just kind of came over. And it usually doesn't happen when I'm out in public like that. Um, but it did. And then on the way home, I actually noticed it at the doctor's office, but then it's hard when I'm out in public because certain people, certain loved ones, and certain deities come to me with a scent. So I was getting this really heavy perfume. And I'm like, I think that's my grandma Alice, my mom's mom. And I was like, but I'm in a doctor's office. There's people wearing perfume. So I'm just going to let it go for now. And on the way home, I could still smell it, and it kept getting stronger, and then it would go away and then it would come back really strong. And I'm like, okay, Grandma Alice is here. But as I tuned into her, I just kept feeling my mom. I just kept feeling my mom. And I'm like, okay, I need to reach out to my mom. Maybe something's wrong. So I reach out to my mom. And as you guys know, my mom and I don't have a great relationship. And so I reached out to her. I said, hey, Mom, Grandma Alice has been with me for a while now. I said, are you okay? Is everything okay? I get almost an immediate response back. Yes, everything's fine. How are you? I said, I'm good. I just wanted to check on you because she doesn't come around me a whole lot. And she goes, well, it's kind of funny that you say that because I've been talking to her photo for the last 2 days. And I knew she was talking to the photo about me because she said, I think she wants us to talk. And I could feel all this grief in my mom. And she said, next year I'll be the same age that my mom was when she died. Her mom was 65 when she died. My dad was 57 when he died. Well, I guess we just don't live that long. um, and she said, I have a lot of regrets. I didn't spend a lot of time with her. I didn't get to know her. And I said, well, if it helps you, they don't hold any anger or resentment. They're not turning over in their grave, which wouldn't matter anyway. She's cremated, but you know what I'm saying. They don't do that. They leave the physical body and they forgive and they see everything through the lens of unconditional love. They see it through your perspective. They don't hold grudges like that. I said, so if that helps you, I want you to know that. And she said it did. And then I said, I just had this overwhelming feeling to say to her, no matter how angry I am at you, no matter what comes between you and I, if something happens to you, I will be there. I will be there. And she didn't even respond to it. And I knew it was because it invoked something in her emotionally. So I just let it go. But what I can tell you was it was super healing for me to be able to validate my mom with her mom and be that bridge. And that was my grandma's way of making sure my mom knew that she heard what my mom was saying. I didn't need to tell my mom what she was saying. I needed to let her know that she was heard. And by what I told her, I knew that I had touched a nerve onto what she was talking to her mom about. And that was me. She didn't have a good relationship with her mom, and I didn't have a good relationship with my mom. And she sees that cycle. And so it was super healing. And I've just had some incredible, very metaphysical, divine experiences the last few weeks. And I feel like those are only going to get more prominent as we ground these frequencies. So there really is no point of this podcast other than to say, we're in New Earth now. Things operate differently. That may require an identity shift for you, the same way it's requiring one of me. It may be requiring you to slow down, to honor your cycles, your seasons, to no longer push or force, and to really just observe and witness yourself in the utmost regard with grace, with gratitude, with compassion. I'll tell you, the last few months have been the kindest I've ever been to myself, the most accepting that I've ever been of myself. And that feels really good. And as I'm seeing the little intricate things that I need to shift and change in my being to adapt to the new earth frequencies, I'm making those changes. And I'm doing it from a loving place. And I really am seeing that everything that's happened and everything that is happening for my benefit, even when it doesn't go my way. Today did not go my way. And if I had surrendered earlier, I could have been laying down a couple hours ago. Lesson learned. But this is it. I'm going to throw up this conversation and I'm going to take the rest of the day and I'm going to start again tomorrow. And that's okay. That's okay. And tomorrow will be great. So wherever you are, just slow down, honor your cycles, honor your intuition, honor what your body needs. Don't resist or fight or try to control or force, because that's the old way of being. And it won't work here. Like legit, it won't work here. And even if you get it to for a moment, it's going to create a disaster. You just got to slow down. You just got to listen. Everything is speaking to you all the time. You just got to follow the signs. You just got to follow the cues. Allow it to lead you. That's all you have to do. So with that, I hope you guys have an amazing week. And I'll see you in the next episode.
Hey, thanks for listening. This episode was brought to you by JohannaBurkhardt.com, where it's time to defy the limits of your mind and step into your multidimensional mastery. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. See you next time.